It always comes to this. More nice Morning guys, back again to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I had 2 sessions. Pretty rapidly, I got my back tattooed and my left hand tattooed. The back tattoo was more or less a guarantee that it was going to work. The hand tattoo, as I mentioned in the last video, I had some mixed feelings or apprehension on. I'll go ahead and show off how the back did, as I'm sure people are curious to see how the second pass worked out. To be quite honest, I haven't really looked at it this morning, but it was shedding all day yesterday, so it'll be a bit of a surprise to me as well. So let's find out together. So I'm pretty sure it's looking pretty good, but who knows? It looked pretty light and pretty dark last time I looked at it, but it was just about to peel when I looked at it last. So when you're getting your back tattooed, you're kind of like, you're going in blind to some degree. And that's, I think, part of the experience that I don't like. I like to be able to see what's going on. Like, when I'm getting tattooed, it's nice to be able to kind of like look over and, oh, okay. When you're getting your back tattooed, you can't. And I feel like it takes some kind of like, it's not like you actually have a ton of control in the moment, but you have some sort of agency in the matter. Whereas theoretically, you could be getting dicked on, literally, behind your back. I think that might be something in the fact that I had when I was having my back tattooed and my front tattooed by 2 separate artists. They were warring over, or at least the guy who was working on my front was warring over my back. He wanted to be doing both, so he was doing things that he shouldn't have been, and I couldn't really see because it was too far on my side to tell. That's where he was building the tentacles of my original front piece into the back. And I think ever since then, it's kind of been like, I want some element of like vision on what's happening. But with your back, you could literally just be done and you look and there's a giant penis on your back, as the old joke goes. I actually did see someone sent me a very phallic back piece that was far too, adult for me to actually react to. It was a fully erect member on someone's back, color realism, and it took up almost the entire back too, to their credit. I'm always saying I want to see the size and scale of these things, and they definitely got that in great detail, high definition, full frontal. It was wild. There are a few things I've been sent by followers where it's like, I can't possibly ever show this. I got a full color dragon tattoo on someone's private parts at one point as well. And it was one of those, I really want to put this in here, but I don't really want to lose my YouTube channel. And, I ride a fine line as it is, it seems like, on social media. So I'm not touching that kind of thing. Anyway, so yeah, the back healed up really easily. Hopefully it's still looking good. I think it's probably looking about the way it was last time I looked at it. Some of the opaque that was done in the mid-tone when we were building the first pass, as I forgot to mention last time, was covered with black and white this time. When Terry was building it, it was really helpful to put that opaque in there. And now I think, like, if he needs to darken parts of it and lighten parts of it, then that's fair enough. And it's easy to do that now. Whereas when you're building something like that, it can be hard to put, or it can be hard to tell where to put the lightest and where to put the darkest points. So when we did the first layer, it was like darkest points in black, lightest points in whites, and anything in the mid-tone was used like opaque, not negative black. Because if you leave that negative black, it's closer to the the Nude Black and the Fresh White than it is to, say, an opaque. So having that mid-tone change even just a little bit and have a new base for black or white if you need to. It's the same logic that has us with this red on black being covered by black on black, and then you get a crisper result than what would happen if you just did a black line on black. So it's all layering, and even when we were using the opaque, we used smoke silver for the mid-tone. It was like, oh, well, this might not be the way that this stays, and it most likely isn't. It's just in order to get some clarity in between your darkest and your brightest points. And then when you come back on the second and even third passes, you can kind of figure out where you want things to be. Anyway, going to ramble about my back anymore. I've got some time off my back, and I'm not minding that idea because I've been working on my back quite a bit lately. We're going to be, Terry and I are going to be working on my fingers this week. I think we're going to go with the right side first. They're the ones that need the most work. They always were. For the people out there who are like, oh, they need to be touched. No, they've been the same for 5 years. It's just you get to a place with anything where you're done for a while. It was the same thing with my red on black hand tattoo last year. Like, we did 3 passes in rapid succession, and then I wanted to leave it alone for a while. It's part mental and part physical because, like, my skin has been worked so much that, like, you really don't want to push it too hard either. You don't really want to risk scar tissue, so it's good to have long breaks in between sometimes. Like, for example, whenever I get this arm finished with Rick, I do plan on leaving it alone for quite a while, and then maybe if you come back and you hit it again, similar to what we did with the chest piece, then it's almost like it's all new and fresh again. And the longer you leave color to settle, the more it is color on color rather than color on black, as I've gone over. But not to say that much of this is really changing anyway. This top part hasn't been hit in months, and it's still looking as great as it did. I guess I should talk a little bit about my session I had with Rick. It's a little hard to open up my arm right now, but see if I can get it up there high enough. So we did all this red and orange, and there's even pink in there, believe it or not. I think he had there's some yellow in there too. I think he had 15 different colors for this one. And so if it's not clear already, it should be salient by now that, this question, which red did you use? So many people ask me, is not a good question because we've used I don't even know how many reds at this point. There are some that we've used more than others. Obviously, the red velvet, it went kind of all over the place for a bit. But we've come back into even that and most of it and covered it with other reds. Especially in this arm, there's a lot of Nebula in there. And Nebula was actually the first red on black we tried in the spider eyes. And to this day, I think it's one of the best ones. It's a bright red that's probably even a little too bright to use over negative space traditionally. It goes into black very, very bright. So if you were to put that on negative space, it'd be almost like candy bright, almost like too much. So anyway, we've got at least one more session to do in here because we've got to do this chunk in the armpit, wrap around here. There's actually some teeth that Rick's building in here to build out the monster's face a little more. If you stand back, you can kind of see this is a monster's face in here, and most people actually seen the picture, believe it or not. I was actually not expecting most people to see it, but it was actually one of those rare times when it made sense to people. So often people are confused with this sleeve, and more so with my torso. And that's okay, because this is all amorphous horror anyway. There's when you get into Lovecraftian horror monsters, they're not it's not like they're going to be as solid and well-defined as a fucking lion. You know what I mean? It's not going to be like you're petting a dog. It's a big fucking blob-like monstrosity. That's what it is, of appendages and limbs. Textures and fucking tentacles and beaks and fucking teeth and claws and, it's it's hard to define. I there was one point when the rose sleeve was actually going to be just a giant tentacle of whatever monster I'm building on my torso. I'm not even ruling out that that may happen one day. I like that stuff. But I also understand that it doesn't make sense to a kind of broad appeal market or a very sort of Walmart style of tattooing. It won't appeal to the lowest common denominator the way that the roses do. And it's such a fine and kind of interesting line for me because my tattooing has gone from very, very simple to very, very crazy. And currently I have both in this bodysuit, and I had both in my first bodysuit as well. If you go back and you look at my first body of work, it was like you had big, bold imagery, and then you had tiny, tiny detailed stuff. And it's because I love tattooing. Like, I fucking love this stuff, obviously, if it wasn't obvious already. I love all kinds of tattoos, and I had someone ask me the other day, how do you keep coming up with ideas for new stuff? And it's like, how do you not? Like, especially with what's happening in the industry these days, like, if stuff like what that Brandon Herrera and or like people like Masakrov was, if they were doing that stuff when I was young, I may have gone in that direction. But even in saying that, I felt similarly about Trash Polka, and so I ended up with some Trash Polka. The thing is like, there will always be another new thing, and there will always be cool new things happening. There are some like old kind of checked out like half-wit tattooers out there that have said things such as like, oh, the industry peaked and it's all downhill for me. It's like, I agree with part of that. I agree with like technical stuff. Sometimes it's like too many people are concerned with finishing a tattoo so they can post it on Instagram, which I could say I'm counter to because my whole body of work is sort of never finished. So I'm always posting work in progress. Like everything about me is hashtag WIP. It's never finished. Whereas most artists, they don't post things until they're finished, and they expect to be judged if they do. It's a huge problem in the industry of like, you can't show people how things are being done because people will laugh or joke like, oh, well, that looks like shit because it's not like, where's the black, or like, where's the white highlights, or like, where's the cut, like it, all these different things happen when you post unfinished work, and it gives people the wrong idea. To do cool things in this industry, it used to be an understood fact that it took time. Now it's like, oh yeah, you went and bought that at fucking the shop down the road, did you? Like, oh, you just picked that off the shop. No, that's not how anything works. But anyway, if I could go back, like if a young Remy was coming up today, you might see me go more towards like a Masakrov or Brendan Herrera style. But like, I would have that same problem. I'm sure those guys get that too, where it's like, what is that? I don't even know what it is. It's like, it's fucking monster stuff, obviously. It's not that hard to understand. It's not for me, because I'm looking at this stuff. I've got, bioorganic stuff in my feed, and I've always liked Lovecraftian horror. I've always, like, as a kid, I drew monsters. I always found them cool, So for me, it's fine. But if you're someone that's, not really that way artistically inclined, then yeah, it probably just looks like mush. So I don't take it as an insult. I take it as like a show of someone's general ignorance towards a topic, It's the same thing showing off my Krampus back piece. You get people who are like, what is it, like a goblin or like an ogre or something? Or it's like, well, I could see how you might think that, but no. Anyway, not to ramble too much about that, there's a lot of cool texture in here, and being this is all first pass, normally you might think, oh, well, yeah, it'll probably need touch-up, but so is this eye, and a lot of the red in here was first pass, and it healed great, so it seems like my inner bicep / armpit is just very, very receptive to color on black, and some skin is better for others, like my hand didn't do the best. Did better than it did last time. We have enough there this time that I think we can make some progress on it. We can come in and we can hit those colors again, and it might be just fine. But there's also this chance of when color on black doesn't look great, come kind of the week after, it's most likely going to be worse going forward because it's probably not in there good enough. So by the time we hit that again, it could be in much worse shape than it is now. That's not the rule with this work. It just seems to be the thing that happens. If it's not still looking good after a week, then it's probably going to look better worse in a month. But whatever, we'll keep banging away on it. I'm in no hurry, very clearly, being that this was session 55 on this sleeve concept. People will say, oh, you mean the whole thing? Like your first sleeve, your blackout to now? It's like, no. That might be closer to 80. There's no fucking telling. It could be in the hundreds for this arm. We don't keep those numbers. There's no way for me to figure that out, because even my first left sleeve before the blackout had cover-ups and reworks in it. So this sleeve has probably been tattooed more than any other appendage in existence. I don't think anyone has a limb out there with more layers on it than this arm. This arm is a lot too, but where the rose sleeve is more simplified, we get this different completed versions of this thing a lot quicker. So it's probably only around, I would say I'm probably around 20 sessions on it, and that includes the black and white on black versions of it as well. Anyway, I'll be talking to you guys again in a few days when I have some new finger blackouts to show off, and I'm very excited to sit down for that again. It's been some time. So, all right, have a great day.